be a publicly owned railway, publicly accountable under the next Labour government.
They should be run for the public, and they should stay in public ownership for the people of this country.
It's March 2005, and 25 members of the National Union of Rail, Maritime and Transport Workers are meeting at the union's headquarters in Somerstown, London. They're here to pick up clothing and boots for the RMT's Rail Against Privatisation mobile demonstration, which begins in 3 weeks' time.
There you go, how many else do you want?
A press launch on Westminster Bridge gets the campaign underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades. I was proud when my union decided to campaign for the public ownership of our railways. I was even prouder when I was asked to go on the mobile demonstration. Because I know without a shadow of a doubt that the views we hold on privatisation are the same views held by the overwhelming majority of the British public. They are views once shared by others like Tony Blair, who when he wanted office promised, and I quote, "To anyone thinking of grabbing our railways so they can make a quick profit as our network is broken up and sold off, I say this. There will be a publicly owned railway system under a Labour government. Over 70% of the British people want the government to renationalise the railways. My union says it's time to fight."
I know that RMT is no longer affiliated to the Labour Party, but certainly most unions would like Labour return. To have that kind of campaign at that particular time could be very embarrassing to the government.
Well, obviously we don't want the Conservatives back in either, but what we want is we don't want Conservative policies, and the fact is that this Labour government on transport is carrying out the same policies what the Conservative Party did. As the Labour Party, that is clearly reprivatised GNER against the wishes of the travelling public.
Bob, in the middle, please. Okay, everyone this way.
Represented on the march are just about every area of the rail industry. We've got drivers, we've got the train crew, ticket office people, everybody. We can't do anything normally out of the ordinary to change the situation. But the group of us here are trying to start the ball rolling.
It's Friday morning on the 15th of April, and the demonstrators begin to arrive in Glasgow Central Station to start a 2-week journey that will carry the message through 14 cities to millions of people.
Okay, in the bag is a whistle for whistling with. Whistle when you march. There's leaflets to hand out to people. Make your way down slowly, make a noise, engaging people in conversations, and make your way then to arrive at St Enoch Square at 11:45. By then the band should be have arrived, and the ad trailer, which you'll like when you see it.
We're having a rally at Enoch Square. We're going to go down and voice your opinions. Hopefully successful.
Is it going to improve rail safety?
It will improve everything on the rail. Hopefully safety is the main factor.
Yes, well, I think that's what everybody's concerned about.
It was in 1994
the same year that the British Railway Accounts and Records valued the 16,000 miles of rail track, the 3,600 railway stations, the hundreds of thousands of acres of adjacent railway land, valued that stock at £6.4 billion. The Tories, the same year, sold the lot for £1.9 billion. That was the sale of the century. Let's take back the railways. They belong to us. They should be owned by us. Let's have genuine, not just public ownership, but workers' control as well. Thanks very much.
After listening to Tommy Sheridan's speech, it's either thinks he's going to become a father or he's not the convener anymore that he's turned moderate. You see, there's this argument going around that it's going to cost billions of pounds to renationalise the railways. It's an absolute lie. All you would need is to paint the trains in government colours and to change the uniform and take the logos off from the private companies and put the government logo on. They're run as a franchise. South East Trains, a sister franchise to the Scottish franchise. Since it's been run under the guise of the Strategic Rail Authority, a government agency, costs have gone down, punctuality's gone up, and staff morale's gone up. What does this government do? It puts it back out to tender to the privateers, and the Danish railway, a state railway, is now intending to buy the South East Trains to make money out of the British railways to put into their own Danish railways.
Privatisation. RMT marching from Glasgow to London.
You made the press.
Oh yeah, I would have made the press brother, yeah. Rail workers gathered in Glasgow's St Enoch Square yesterday as part of a bid to urge the state to take control of the industry.
The only reason we're here is that this government of the day are not prepared to listen to the people, and that is why we've had to take to the streets and disseminate the information in relation to the crisis on the railway and the rip-off of the people of this country regarding the privatisation of the rail network.
Richard Branson, Virgin Trains. Richard Branson, Virgin Aeroplanes. Virgin Banking. They've got a big corporation. You know, the government gave in 2001 to Virgin Trains £400 million to run their section of the railways. They pocketed 40 million of it in profits. And you know, in that 1 year, do you know how much tax Virgin Group paid to the British government? Less than £6 million. Why are they philosophically against public ownership when it makes financial sense? And I'll tell you why. It's because the new Labour government in the City of London are like this.
We've marched through Edinburgh where it's a great pleasure to say that 2 of the sitting MPs support our campaign. However, it's also a crying shame to have to state that the 4 other MPs who are planning to stand for re-election here in Edinburgh are MPs who do not support the majority view of their own party. And the chief villain in all of this, brothers and sisters, is the Transport Secretary. I am afraid to say that he is the MP for Edinburgh Central, none other than the Right Honourable Alistair Darling.
I've been on the job nearly 30 years now, and accidents did happen then. There was no glorious days at BI, you know, let's forget all that. But if and when an accident did happen, then the rule book was changed to ensure that the accident simply could not happen again. The way it operates now, when an accident happens, we're looking for somebody to blame. We're actually paying for a much poorer, less safer service. And unfortunately, we've got gravestones piling up behind us, and they'll continue to pile up while we're paying these profiteers.
We're against privatisation. Support the RMT's campaign to renationalise the railways.
I whipped some through in the station. Okay.
Aha, there that goes.
Huh?
Bridge the gap.
Who's done that?
Bridge the gap.
We're on the decline in some respects industrial, and we need the rail network, and not only that, the environment itself. Without any question that we need rail and get people out of motor cars.
As far as I remember, it just used to be Intercity and Region Railways Northeast.
Yeah.
Just 2 companies. Now, as you say, there's about 4 different companies.
And their timetables are not coordinated.
And all 4 of them are different tickets.
Yeah,
and
some tickets are only valid on one and not on the others.
Our railways have been bled dry by greed. We don't say so. Independent and respected academics say so. A recent report by the independent think tank Catalyst calculated on a moderate estimate now, that £800 million a year is taken out of the industry as returns to private lenders and investors. That's more than £6 billion that has been robbed out of the railway since 1996. So Catalyst were quite right to warn that without direct public control over costs, money spent in support of the rail industry will prove unsustainable, creating pressure to shift the burden to passengers through fare rises and cuts to services. Passengers will pay the cost of privatisation yet again.
It's time to give us back what we the public, own, and that's our transport system, our rail system. That is ours, not theirs, to rip us off with. It's ours, and I'll end it there. But keep up the support.
All the changes, uniform and paint, truck and carriage.
Absolutely bang on that is, yeah. Just a change of uniform, a change of the colour of the trains, and that is it.
I got a grandson who I absolutely adore. He's 3 years old. He's already made up his mind what he wants to do when he gets older. Wants to work for the train company. I bought him this train set which has got like plastic track and a sit-on train. And the only thing he does with it is hammer his hammer on the track and replace lumps of the track. So I think he's probably going to be a track maintenance worker when he grows up. At the moment, with the government continually clawing away the branch lines and streamlining the other things and putting it into private hands, there's going to be nothing there for him when he grows up.
it's so fragmented now. You know, and when they first split it up, it was over 100 and odd companies it was split up into. So they all want to make their little profit out of the taking sort of thing, you know. And whereas we all used to work as an integrated workforce and, you know, cooperate with each other. You get a lot of arguments between companies now, and you're not allowed to do this and that. And it's just been a complete mess ever since it started.
I think it's a crucial issue we've got with privatisation. It needs to be addressed, bring all our companies back into one organisation. Just hand the keys back and let us run it as we're supposed to run it.
Nationalise the railways. Let's have our railways back in public ownership. No more privatisation on the railways. Let's have our railways back. Renationalise the railways. Support the RMT's campaign to renationalise our rail network.
Since privatisation, managers come very, very strong that their policies of selling, you know, you must sell your company and this, that and that, which I think is wrong. All we should be doing, in actual fact, is selling the railways for the passengers to have an enjoyable day on the trains.
See, I were ex-Jarvis, and then we got, like, you could call it like renationalised, because we went from Jarvis to Network Rail. And all what happened with us, I'd still got my little red van, and it said Jarvis on it, but now it's a little red van with a sticker what says Network Rail over the top of Jarvis sticker. And before I'd got Jarvis t-shirts, now I've got Network Rail t-shirts, and with no change whatsoever. I haven't had any sort of changes in my job. After 5 days, the demonstrators have reached Hull. They go to the station, where General Secretary Bob Crow is due to join them. His privatised train is late. Under privatisation, the number of trains running late has nearly doubled. It's about 1 in 7.
If it was a public railway, the profit you made from the normal public would be regenerated into the infrastructure of the railways, whereas at the moment the profit's being pocketed by all these privateers, the big companies like Virgin and GNR.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and increasing subsidy to give profit to operators is a bizarre situation, but British Railways had nearly 50 years to get it right. You know, how much longer do you want?
Oh, well,
how much longer do they want?
In the last 10 years, the privatised companies got it wrong. With the last year of British Rail managed to run 91% of services within 5 minutes of its scheduled arrival time. Yeah. Since privatisation, that's dropped down to 80%.
About 1/3 more people are travelling by train now than did 10 years ago. Is that not a good thing?
Obviously, more people travelling is a good thing. But that could equally have happened under British Rail as it could under privatised companies. The fact of the matter is that competition actually did come in on the rail with the infrastructure companies, but yet it's been well appreciated that the infrastructure companies have been the big failure of privatisation. After all, Railtrack went completely bust and had to be bailed out, for example. So it's quite clear to see that competition doesn't bring benefits to the passenger, it brings disaster.
The two candidates up here, John Prescott and Alan Johnson, their party conference last October said that the railway should be brought back into public ownership, but it's not been put in a manifesto. And we believe that it's a pledge, not only of last year, but in 1997 Tony Blair said there would be a publicly owned, publicly accountable railway. Certainly the travelling public want it, and our members that work on the railway want it.
We hope we have a good day today here in Hull, a good day tomorrow in Leeds, and a fantastic week next week, finished by a big finale in London. As I say, we welcome you from our regional council.
Oh,
Why does it cost 50 quid to go to London from Hull? How's a family going to afford that? They'll just jump in the car, all of them, go all the way down, all the way back, on one tank of petrol.
The general election is 2 weeks away, so the demonstrators go to the local Labour Party office, the headquarters of John Prescott. The Deputy Prime Minister was once sponsored by the RMT, and the demonstrators could use his support right now. But it seems that Mr Prescott has left the building. Neither of his Jags are anywhere to be seen.
Nick, so we come to see one of our former tenants. Oh, is it?
Oh, where have you gone? Nobody else about?
No. No, I'm sorry.
Mr Prescott not about?
No, sorry, no.
Miss Prescott, the city today?
I couldn't tell you, I'm sorry, I don't know, because we just lived up with nothing to do with the Labour.
Oh, sorry to say, man.
You're alright.
Well, you got here, we'll have a go.
Labour Party policy. Why is it not his policy? Where is he?
It's just ringing. There's no answer at all. Not even an answer phone.
We've come down here to see John Prescott today. He was a former official of our union, and we wanted to ask him where he stands, because in 1997 Tony Blair said there'd be a publicly owned, publicly accountable railway. That hasn't happened. Secondly, on top of that as well, at last year's Labour Party conference, they said we'd turn the railways back to public ownership, and we still ain't heard nothing.
This country is sick and tired of the millions of pounds going to those people.
Come in. We're against privatisation, renationalisation of the railways.
This is the RMT's National Mobile Demonstration, demanding that the government fulfils their promises. Ask them where they stand on renationalisation of the railways. They all said they wanted it 10 years ago before they got into office. Suddenly they forgot. You need to remind them. Tell them if they don't fulfil promises, why are you voting for them? Ask them. These 3 weeks they will listen, believe me.
I want to travel on trains. I've got right to travel on trains like everybody else. It's all right when I'm wearing a ticket, and then when I turn up the following day to go on my journey, they turn around and say, no, I'm giving me money back.
Well, you
saying
can
they
say
can't
something to
travel.
Tony if you want.
Yeah.
He'll sort it out.
Tony Blair, you rubbish.
Thanks for listening to us anyway.
Right, okay, and a lot of disabled people in town think they're the same thing as well.
Yeah, all the best to you, love.
Bye.
Cheers.
I started off with BR, and I've got loads of different uniforms from the different companies because we've had so many, and they've all cut and cut.
A lot of the public don't realise how much money's been spent on privatisation, and if British Rail had that amount of money when it was nationalised, we would have bullet trains running to Ilkley with the amount of money they've spent.
A number of people I have heard saying we should renationalise the railway. And I used to work on British Rail. I was on the footplate. I left a few years ago, and it wasn't perfect by any means. There was a lot of waste. But one thing that was instilled in you was about safety. You know, safety was paramount, belt and braces, and that's why there were so few accidents.
I mean, it used to be a massive railway town, which of course it isn't anymore, because we haven't even got any goods yards here now. They shut them all down. Just look at the traffic down the city now. You know, it's horrendous. The weekdays here, you can't move. So most of that stuff, when you see it, all these HGVs and all that, that was stuff that was on the railway 30, 40 years ago. It's not there now.
For the RMT's campaign to renationalise our railways. So our railways back in public ownership. 75% of the people. Please support our campaign.
The demonstrators arrive at the Manchester Mechanics Institute, the birthplace of the Trades Union Congress, for a public rally.
We object to the continued fragmentation of the industry. We have a government franchising body, we have Network Rail, We have the Office of the Rail Regulator. We have 3 rail rolling stock companies, 6 track renewal contract holders, 10 or more train operating companies, 200 main network rail contractors. That's 222 at least different component parts of the rail industry, and we know what the tragic consequences of that in a T-Bay disaster in this region not so long ago.
When people say it was the Tory government that privatised us, there's nothing we can do. Well, who privatised all the infrastructure on London Undergrounding? That was Labour. Who re-put the bid out for GNER? Labour. Who put the bid out for Northern Rail? Labour. Who's going to put the bill out for South East Trains, the new tender? Labour. They know all the things that we want can't be delivered under the system that we've got. That everything they want is purely by individual greed. But everything we want is through individual need. Hospitals, pensions, schooling, transport. That's the nonsense we're in, because you can't control the industry. If you actually controlled it, do you honestly believe you would let Longbridge shut down in the middle of a general election campaign? He can't control his energy supplies because he shut pits down. He can't control his steel supplies because they've shut steel down. He can't decide at any given moment in time what freight's put on rail and road because he doesn't control it. And the only way that we'll have a proper economy with proper people working the proper industry is by owning it. And that message is just not dogma. If you don't own it, you don't control it. The renationalisation of the industry is right. We know it's right, and by doing that, you'll give everyone a better society in general.
Merchant Seamen's Memorial. If you just look at some of the names of the ships, they're all crewed by Indians, Muslims. HMS Banker. It's not an English name there. And here another one, HMS Ankin. So these would have been our members. A lot of them would have been our members, you know. When you get these races, they don't mention how many died during the war, do they?
Ask your Labour MP or candidate if they support Labour Party policy to renationalise the railways. If they don't support it, ask them why they don't support it.
It's nearly 10 years since 80 Liverpool dockers were sacked for refusing to work a disputed overtime rate. The Catter is a community centre and club run by the sacked dockers.
Everybody's with you. As far as I'm concerned, Bob, you're doing a fantastic job. And I just wish that we could have weighed some of these marchers before they start, because there's a few of them look as if they put on a few pounds that have been lost anything, you know. But never mind. Anyway, thanks very much and welcome to Merseyside.
You see, I had no illusions about Blair. A lot of people said that when Blair got elected, he wasn't really the person that he was. He was going to, that mask that Mick had on, I mean, you should have kept it on, Mick, actually, to be honest with you, but you know that mask that you had on? When Mick took that mask off, the real Mick Dooley stood up. And with Blair, people thought he was going to take that mask off and the real Tony Blair would stood up. But Blair's been pretty straight with people. He said he ain't going to renationalise any of your industries. He said he ain't going to give you any workers' rights. But the worst thing about when Darling spoke at the Scottish TUC, and I got up after him, that all of the STUC applauded him and said they're going to carry on going out there and supporting the Labour Party on May the 5th. And I made it quite clear from the rostrum, what they should have told him was to go and get stuffed and don't come back to this hall until you are prepared to bring policies up for working men and working women. Comrades, you will be told you've got to be careful, because the only answer they've got is, do you want Tony Blair or Michael Howard? These people are a bit like that old film The Wizard of Oz. You know, they're a big oracle of a person that looks big, but when you walk round the glass, they're a little person sitting there in a chair. Little elf sitting there.